Hey guys, now we're going to kind of build off of this previous one here, and before, all we did is just find a really good HDR image, darken it down a little bit, try to get something maybe we feel would work for a night shot, and we added one little accent light here to give us some pretty nice little shadow information hitting the top of the balcony. The railing has a nice little rim light, the telescope is being hit with one finally. We're going to continue doing this, but I want to show you a few other ways that are going to make this a lot more appealing to look at by maybe using other types of light sources from below or even inside of the environment. So one really cool thing about this particular scene that's set up is, some of you guys may have noticed this, but if you click around and look at the way the groups are set up, like I'm clicking here in the Geo group, see how there's something called window or door window master group? That's everything. Now let's go in there and look what's in here. Let's click again. I'm just clicking on that door frame. Door window group 1, click. Now look what's lighting up in this case. I'm going to click on the door again. So it's just that piece. If I rotate just that, see how we've now broken the four persons balcony door? That's not good. But if you click on the group, look where the rotator and that manipulator handle is moving. See how it's on the line with the door hinge? Let's go back. Okay, back to the group. It's in this location because now if I click and open and close it, we can now rotate this entire thing open and close to get some type of new illumination. And you can do that for the doors. Go back here, same thing. This, you don't want to rotate that, but you can see how there's a door shutter group. That's on the hinge, and now this could be opened and closed. And it is going to work that way for pretty much all these guys. All the doors, the shutters, the windows have the same setup. So if maybe your camera sees this guy, there's a shortcut, by the way, to get to the group. I use this a lot, but if you click on an object and then hit the up arrow, that will navigate up a sort of a directory or a folder inside of here. It's sort of going up in the chain from like child to parent's parent. But the window group right here, which again I can click and hit up on my keyboard, E, I could now open this window up and get some different look. So the reason this is all important is because by opening and closing those guys, if we had a light source on the inside, depending on what we do with doors being closed or shutters being open, that's going to allow the lighting to do a bunch of different things, either visibly back behind this stuff, or just by casting through it and hitting other objects on the balcony. So I don't really necessarily know right now what's going to look good. So let's just try making some random light source in here and see what we get. So we're going to do a candle flame because I think it might match sort of the theme of this whole shot. And plus, one cool thing about doing a candle, which is going to be a warmer color, so I'll probably use color temperature, but that's going to give me a really nice contrast to the cooler and whiter colors that we're already using. So it might be a nice way to get a warm, cool color contrast. Nice little balance. Okay, we're going to go to the RenderMan shelf. For this, a candle is omnidirectional, so it goes in all directions. So I'm going to try using a Pixar sphere light. Hit W, you can see there it is. We're just going to move it up, move it over. I'm not going to worry about scaling it yet because this might be close to the right size for the flame. But if you want to scale it up, you can try that. Just be careful because if you do make it too big, you're going to get really soft shadows, which might not be a bad thing. But that is sort of breaking away from reality because if the light source for the flame is this big, there's a good chance we have a fire inside of the building. So we're going to keep it that small. Go to the attributes. Let's just turn on color temperature immediately. I'm going to hit R, and I just need to really figure out what this light's even doing. So I clearly can't see anything. So we got to bump up the exposure. Let's go to 4, see if we get anything. Eventually that will update. Again, sometimes there is a little bit of a delay. I don't think it's doing it yet. Yep, nothing. Let's go to 8. Okay, something's happening. Now, my one issue I'm noticing is when I do go higher, it's adding light, but see how boring that is? Because the interior light is very, very close to matching some of the tones from the outside. It's more of a neutral color. I need to change this because this is making my image look a lot worse. So let's go to flame, which would be around 3000, and we can kind of go up and down from that depending on if we want to make it richer and exaggerate it. Is it too rich? Do I want to pull that back? So if I did something like 4000, it's warm but not as warm. If I go to like 2500, we're starting to get into much more saturated oranges. So for now, we'll just stick around maybe 3000. And all I'm doing is moving this guy around and trying to figure out if I like that amount of light. Is it overwhelming the shot? If I maybe had it closer to here. What I do like that's happening is see how we're getting a nice shadow along this particular shutter. So that's kind of cool. I like the shadow we're getting. But I could also play around with the group. I could say, all right, well, maybe I want the light to be a little closer to being in frame so I can have more of it creep out and hit the balcony. So we're going to do this, maybe move it up a little bit. So it's perhaps this is a light source hanging from the ceiling. So let's move it up. Okay, we're now getting more of a top down. You can see a gradient. And I'm going to push this to the point where it starts to hit some of the things outside. I want to see how much we can do before ruining the interior. There we go, 12, 13. Now there is going to be a point where, depending on how much you push it, the intensity from that one light source might be overwhelming the shot. But this is still a really cool looking effect, because now what's happening is because we're brightening the interior so much, we're getting almost a better shape and silhouette of the telescope because you're seeing that darker telescope against the lighter background. So this is using a backlight. And if I push it even farther, really cool stuff happening. Notice that little rim light we're getting from the underneath. That's giving it better form, a little more bounce on the exterior. So this is, already looking like a really interesting little shot. And if I ever want to compare it, let's just come down to this one light, Control H to hide it. Here's before. Let's click on it, Shift H to unhide it. After. I feel like that's going in a very positive direction. And I would really challenge you guys to have fun, experiment, because you're going to be doing this probably for one of your bonus renders for this week. But play around with the different objects. If you think that this could be closed, like maybe I want a block light on this one side, we could do that. Let's click off and just deselect. So I don't know if this is necessarily better because I'm sort of hurting the silhouette here. It's just a different look. Let's open that up again. And likewise, I could decide, like maybe I want to have both of these open just a little bit. So we're going to take the groups for the doors. Like, does this look more appealing? If I completely open these guys up, let's go all the way. Oh, and we broke the door. So let's just spin that out. Click, up arrow, E for rotation. Let's open this one up a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to click, hold shift, and I'm trying to deselect these guys so I don't get the wireframe in there. There we go. Yeah, I think this is still okay as well. I do like the illumination we're getting on the side of the door. This feels pretty interesting. Maybe the telescope silhouette isn't as noticeable, but still pretty cool little shot. So what else would maybe be interesting to add here? Well, of course, if you guys have the other windows in frame, you could open and close those, play around with a secondary light in one of the windows that's peering out, accenting the side of the wall. One thing that sticks out to me is the bottom part of the balcony. This looks really flat, right? We're losing shape there. So I do like it here, but this side specifically is just not very appealing. Not that that's wrong, but we could just play around with maybe adding an accent. So maybe there's another flame down here. So I'm going to right click. We could do a sphere again. Now this one I don't think it would matter if I did a rectangular or a disc, because I'm really just trying to aim some light up at this one spot. So we'll maybe cut some corners and do a rectangular light for this guy. And again, the reason I'm not doing a sphere is because since I can't see the other parts of the scene anyway, it's not really a big deal to me if it doesn't illuminate the ground. We're just trying to get a little accent here underneath the balcony. But hopefully this is all making sense, like looking at your shapes, thinking about what looks flat, how can we add some more interesting appeal to that. Okay, so we're going to do this, see if we can catch something from below. And let's go to the attributes of that light. Okay, there it is. It's updating. And already, without even doing any adjustments, we're getting much better shape here. So let's click on it, Control H to hide it. Before, and then after. Now we're getting better shape on that side, but is that always a good thing? No, because sometimes you do want darker and dead spots of the shot because it gives your eyes areas where they can rest and not be distracted. So maybe by not including this, it means we're able to focus more on the important sections. We could also do something crazy where, well, not crazy. This is wild. We could do something fun where maybe we say like, all right, this is another candle where we do like color temperature adjustments. It's a warm light. That's also kind of interesting. Or if you really wanted to go out in left field, you could say, all right, we're not even trying to do natural lighting anymore. We're going stylized. Maybe this light source is something really creepy. We're going to do some green. So now I'm not using temperature. We're going into that color manually and picking a green tone. Now, my concern with this, if I did green, I would maybe change some of the other colors so it's not too much of a rainbow effect. But we now have like a creepy green underlight. You know, I could even go into richer reds and make it more of a pure red. Some like maybe it's a very dark, gloomy shot where you have this really powerful red underlight hitting something. And I probably would kill that light on the inside, or maybe make that interior light green. So there's like a red and green color balance going on. So this is now adding a red underglow. So those are just things to think about. And probably the last thing I'm going to show you guys, you can maybe look into, is adding geometry to help break up some of the lighting. So you've seen how we've already been moving doors and opening and closing things and adding accent lights just to make the shot a lot more appealing. Well, look at the top of the frame here. You notice how this is a really clean open spot, at least for my render. What if we started adding some things to break up that light source? So sometimes when I'm lighting something, it's not really an issue with the light itself because I really like the angle. I like the way it's hitting the objects. I just don't care for one spot of the frame because it feels like it's too boring. So what I'm going to do is make a torus, and you could use a cube, a sphere. This is, again, really, it's like a sandbox. You're just playing around with your different options and experimenting. But I'm putting this guy here to see if I can make some shadows. So it's not visible in the shot. It's literally just here to add shadow detail. Now, it's cutting through it. We're getting a little bit of a donut effect where there's a hole in the center where it's making it through. I think this shadow is too distracting. So what I'm going to do is go to the channel box. So it's still selected. Let's let this update. And when you click on a new primitive shape right here, look at the input, see where it says Polytorus 1. If you click, this is showing you the history of the initial creation. This is something you're going to get a lot more of when you get to one of the modeling classes. But the settings that come with all these primitives, and you can play around with them, they just change the divisions, how smooth they are, the width, the scale. The one I'm going to do here is the section radius. I'm going to bring that down a little bit to make it a little, make the torus not as thick. So that way the shadow isn't as noticeable. Okay, let's also move this up because I don't want to have that ring, that crest right there to be visible in the frame. There we go. That's not bad. It's kind of cool. Now, in the process of doing that, it has blocked light, so it is very slightly darker down here. So maybe one thing I could do is also boost the intensity of it, see if that looks any better. But we've come a really long way with these different light sources. I just want you guys to have fun playing around with this stuff. To me, lighting is one of the most important and fun parts of the entire production pipeline because you really are painting. I know there's a lot of technical aspects that go with this, but essentially you're painting with light. It really doesn't get much better than this. So see what you can kind of come up with. And if you end up making a bunch of different light sources, I would still recommend putting them on different display layers. So if let's say that all of this was supposed to be a different shot. Like I already have the night shot set up, and I don't think, oh, I didn't even put this one on it. I would add this to that layer. I should probably rename it to something like Moonlight or something like that. But I would probably also add these as well. Right click, add those guys, just to keep everything organized. So if I ever wanted to break away from this render, remove all the lights, they're all in that layer. I can turn them off and go back to a different image to get a different light setup.